Hi pals, it's 413 once more. For those not aware, April 13th is the birthday of a webcomic called Homestuck. Think of it as 420 for Homestuck fans. Now initially, I was on the fence about making a video on 413, since I already made one on it last year, which got claimed by WMG. But then I realized this year marks the 10th anniversary of Homestuck. So I decided to be more candid with this one. One thing I haven't been able to do is connect with my viewers, and part of that might be due to my own insecurities. But I want to share this series and its impact on me. For many, it's just a dead meme on the internet now. For others, it's associated with a now dying but formerly rabid fanbase on Tumblr. Since its end in I think it ended in 2016? I'll have to fact check on that. Fervor for it has kind of died off. Its spiritual successor, Hivestuck, while entertaining, never quite gained the amount of popularity as the original series. Sadly. No matter how you came to know about the series, Homestuck, well, it'll always have its place on the internet. And I'd like to give a few thoughts, my personal take on its legacy, and how it got me through a particularly rough patch during my life. So with that being said, let's have a chat about Homestuck. Or in other words, let me tell you about Homestuck. Homestuck is a comic, no wait, a visual novel, no wait, an RPG, no wait, a Flash series, no wait, an interactive story that combines various mediums of storytelling in order to tell an incredibly long, epic tale about a group of friends trying to win a game? Oh, and there are memes. Lots of memes. It was created by Andrew Hussie, the man, the myth, the Toblerone-eating legend. Sorry, Neo Yokio. He had first dibs. Previously known for creating Jailbreak, Bard Quest, and Problem Sleuth on his MS Paint adventure site, as well as having a penchant for weaving surprisingly intricate, twist-ridden storylines using little more than, MS Paint and Flash, Hussie already had a small but fiercely loyal fanbase by the time he gave birth to Homestuck on this very day back in 2009. There was no doubt that it was his biggest undertaking thus far. Homestuck is the story about an ordinary and somewhat goofy kid named John Egbert. For his 13th birthday, John receives a game called Suburb. So, basically, most of the first act deals with John retrieving the game in the first place. I know most people don't actually bother explaining much about the story when it comes to Homestuck, which is why I'll attempt to be more thorough. In this act, we're introduced to John, his friends, his dad, and that's about it. Hussie ends it with a flash in order to further engage the reader. The flashes. Basically what Homestuck fans live for. Yeah, they're pretty neat, and basically act as a final cutscene for getting through an act, or midway through an arc, but not necessarily a scene or act. It's kind of confusing. There are also times where the flashes end up being mini-games, or even something as random as a music player. It could really be anything as long as it's used to further progress the story. That includes all the craziness included in Homestuck's plot. It really is difficult to break down each act and scene into sizable chunks, not to mention the cloning, human and alien experimentation, world building, literally, and all the other wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff. And all that before you even get to the story of the trolls. And the trolls, as interesting as they are, do take a while to get to, which leads me to my next point. So what are some pitfalls of Homestuck? Well, for starters, it's very difficult to stick with. It took me about 3 or 4 honest attempts to get into Homestuck. When I finally did, though, I thought it was just okay. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great either. It was kind of confusing and a little whimsical, but ultimately I failed to see what the big deal was. Then I reread it up to the point it was at that time, and I enjoyed it a bit more, but I still wasn't exactly in love with it. Then I watched Let's Read Homestuck. Oh boy. For those of you who have tried to get into the mess that is the original source, I heavily suggest giving the Let's Read a shot. You can find it right here on YouTube. And no, they're not paying me to say this. Anyway, having recently lost my only group of friends due to personal reasons regarding my mental state at the time. Sorry guys, YouTube won't allow me to say the S word. I was feeling so isolated, misunderstood, and depressed, and well, that series managed to help me cope through it all. So to those guys, I'd like to offer my thanks for potentially saving my life with their series. Sorry, that got deep. Okay, back to the mean stuff. Personally for me, Act 5 Scene 2 is the highest point of the writing in Homestuck. Now the reason I bring it up is because everyone who recommends this lovable abomination pleads with you to reach at least Act 5. My problem with that though is that I found the first part of Act 5 to be kind of meh. I'd say my overall enjoyment level of it was on par with Act 4's, though I will admit that Let's Read Homestuck really helped bring it to life for me. And I actually really enjoy it now. Sadly, Homestuck never quite reaches the same heights once Act 5 is over, at least for me personally. The story gets more complex, but the writing itself tends to go downhill after that, which is kind of sad. Also, be prepared for all the mega pauses to follow. Hussie likes to take breaks, often. They become more apparent as the story progresses and gets more involved, both story-wise and creation team-wise. By that I mean, Hussie eventually amasses his own creative team, named after the infamous in-story running joke and former name of his online store, What Pumpkin. So I think that happened around Act 6. This is the same team he gathered together to create the inevitable Hive Swap before, well, mishaps happened. I mean, let's just say it took a while to come out, but since it's mostly just conjecture and speculation surrounding what exactly happened, I can't really say what happened for sure. Speaking of Hussie's team, it's primarily made up of fans of Homestuck. At its core, Homestuck is a very funny, clever, and captivating story, and it certainly shows with its fan base. Though it might not be as large as others nowadays, it certainly was in its heyday, and was and still is comprised of countless talented musicians and artists. A prime example of this endless pool of talent is none other than the now venerable Toby Fox. That's right, that Toby Fox. The one of Undertale and now Deltarune fame, who before meeting Hussie was just making ROM hacks for the legendary RPG Earthbound, or if you prefer Mother. Thanks to him, we now have the I must say though, Homestuck's version is pretty solid. From 2012 to now, it is still my phone's main ringtone. Get dunked on, Sans. So I mean, yeah, that's about it. Homestuck ended during a pretty important year, and considering it was the same year as a rather emotionally charged election cycle, to say the least, I can't help but feel its end further impacted some than it otherwise would have, had the circumstances been different. Nevertheless, no matter what political spectrum you fall under, if you are a fan, you are sad to see it go. Or maybe relieved? As incredible as the final Flash animation was, I couldn't help but feel that writing-wise, it was a bit of a cop-out. Ah well, I'm sure if anyone was relieved to see Homestuck's end, it was probably Hussie himself. Well, I guess that's all I have to say. I just wanted to thank Mr. Hussie for crafting such an internet masterpiece and somehow seeing it all the way through to the end. So to that I say, happy 10th anniversary, Homestuck. May the blind prophets continue to guide your legacy into the future and onwards. I would also like to offer my thanks to anyone who listened to the end. You will always have my gratitude. This one was actually scripted, so I didn't get to say everything that I wanted to. And this isn't really a Homestuck-centric channel, but I plan to upload on or around 4/13 each year, just to help keep this series alive. As for this new video series itself, I plan to work out the format a bit more to help get my thoughts out a bit easier. It was kind of messy, but I'm glad I got it out on time. So with all of that said, stick around, stay tuned, and I'll catch you all later, my friends. Hopefully real soon. Take care, guys.